There we go.
All right, welcome. This is our Thursday Amsterdam program. Yes.
Except we're not there.
Well, we're there in heart and intention. So,
Yes, well, I see Tim, so
yeah.
all right, Tim, that smile.
All right. So welcome you all. All righty.
Awesome. Namaste. Okay, before we start today, I have two announcements I want to make. It's a reminder to everybody that, you know, when we do our broadcasts, so the free ones are always public and they are broadcast on our social media sites. So just so that you know that people on YouTube and Facebook and Crowdcast and Zoom have the opportunity to view you if they find this. So most people just sign up and that's who's on the program. We want to also remind you that when you come forward to speak with Shree and to ask your question, how important that question is to all other seekers and awakened souls, because that Shree and Sajamai and New Dharma may choose to use a portion of your question or all of it for future educational and teaching purposes through our social media site. So I just want people to know that, you know, that if we feel it's very sensitive information, then I will contact you directly. Okay. So we're just not randomly posting things. We are very careful about what we post, but we look at your question as an educational or as a teaching moment for somebody else who can't be here today. So that's for that. The second piece is that we have started working on it. We have an app called New Dharma or Shree New Dharma. And some of you are already been invited to join because eventually the idea is to bring everything that we do onto this app. It is a community network app. And right now, Jaya is working very diligently with Jason to set up all of our global study groups on this app. And I just want people to know that this is something that Shree and I are behind, that we see it as one way where people can connect to each other in a more direct way. We're just starting this process. There's a little bit up on there. I sent out an information piece in the mailer this week. So if you're curious, like I know I see Jane on there, I know you've signed up and a number of other people have signed up. The idea that this is a membership invite only at this point. At one point, it will be partially public and partially private. We will look to do exclusive programs on this site that will not be done through Crowdcast or Zoom. And most of that will be Shree. He'll either be live online with, say, a question and answer once a month. It could be just spontaneous talks that he's doing now. But it will only be on this private site. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up. If you have any questions, feel free to write me at newdharma@gmail.com. But I also want those of you who are working with Jaya with the global study groups to know that Shree is fully behind the work that we're doing with the global study groups on the Shree New Dharma app. And so anything you can do to make Jaya's job easier, I'm sure she will be happy with. And Jaya, she's here somewhere. Do you want, oh, there you are. Is there anything else you'd like to say about this? She's coming, she's there. She's like, they're unmuting you, honey. She has to, okay, there you go.
Good. Hi, I think you covered it all, but I'm really excited about it, the work we've been doing with Jason so far to get some groups on initially. And so if you hear from me about getting your group online, hopefully we can work together to figure out how to do that. It's a big experiment, but I'm really excited about the potential.
Great, Jaya, thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right, so thank you for all letting me take a few minutes of your satsang time. Okay.
Okay, so really good. This is a beginning of our Europe tour. So we're actually going to do a satsang today and a satsang tomorrow.
Our armchairs.
and an intensive on Saturday. So it is the structure of this is a momentum that takes us somewhere, as I do in all my work. And so there will be two sets of these, the next one next week, and then we'll lead us into the 6th day, which would have been what we did in Amsterdam anyway. So the invitation here is to participate as a continuous unfolding of a process these next 3 days, and to use this intentionally as a means of a mini program for yourself, so that the time between these sessions can be enriched by the consciousness that's coming to you to address that next unfolding. Because really, we're going to start with this conversation of Dharma, the new Dharma, specifically, and the way we can learn to align our lives such that in every moment of our life where the things that arise are seen as opportunities to see what we haven't seen before, to move into relationship with that which we haven't been in relationship before, to begin to wake up out of whatever is remaining of our slumber as human beings, and in the process, then begin to align yourself and how you live in a way that you're enlivened and enriched by the current that's currently available on the planet when we align our lives with this new Dharma that is coming. Be sure it's coming. In fact, it's here. In fact, it is what brought you here. We don't usually pay attention to the background that motivates us to do things or to want to do things, most of which, of course, is shaped by our vital nature, our desire nature, our preferences, and all the other conditionings. But in this particular work, I always recognize and I can feel you and your potential and or your already current of this new Dharma that's flowing into the world now. And I experience those of you who can as collaborators in no matter what situation you are in. It's not that there isn't, this is something for the world. This is not Shree's mission. This is not New Dharma's Dharma. This is not any one person's Dharma. It is the times, the call and the cry of the times. So each of us have an opportunity to be empowered by this current, even if you're not a very active follower of me or New Dharma. So we're going to speak to this, and I want to speak to this because part of this has to do with our willingness to come into responsibility for our lives as it is, to wake up to the role we play in how we've gotten to where we are. Because no matter what is the conditioning or the programming or the environment or the culture or the sex you were born into, you in fact have a choice to take an action or not take an action. So historically, when people speak of Dharma, it's almost like you speak of fate, like an inevitable consequence of previous actions, the consequences of previous actions, karma. But Dharma is something different, in fact. Dharma is the actions you take that are aligned with the reason you were born. That is that part of you that came here to be able to serve the unfolding of the times we're in now. And of course, these are unique times. And many of you are unique, developed souls who have chosen to come to the world. Yet you, when you embody, you, like everyone else, take on the content of whatever remains of your previous lives, whatever is still trying to be worked out. So we inevitably get caught up and overtaken and lose access to the purpose, the reason we were born. The only thing we may have is like an inner sensor, where no matter what kind of predicament we find ourselves in, there is this thing that gets activated when it points to a direction aligned with our purpose, with our Dharma. So in fact, many, many people are here, especially young people, who have this call to this new Dharma, but they're in the midst of the paradigm they were born into, and their parents and the body and the influences of their environment and their friends and all the other structures. And therefore, they're not able to live life as they were meant to be lived, as life was meant to be lived. So there is an anguish, a dejection, a lostness, an anger, a despair. So when this current can be seen or felt, there's this not just relief, but recognition of a way out of the dejection, a way out of the despair, a way to align. But how to do that when you have all this paradigm for the 10, 20, 30 years that has brought you to this point, still shaping what you actually can implement, what can actually have happen in your day, different than what you have been doing already up until any one moment. So we're puppets on a string, or the dance of Prakriti in their endless swirl of diversity. And in that movement, we are unwitting particles of that current, of her own unfolding. So when we speak of Dharma, we speak of something us human beings can do. The rest of the nature, it's automatic. Their Dharma for the plant is to grow, for the animal is to eat, not be eaten. Each of us have a Dharma associated with the capacity of the vehicle we're occupying, but us human beings have a unique power to choose different than what we have brought in with our conditioning and what we took on by taking on a body and a personality. And that's when we empower our ability to live in life aligned with our purpose. So one of the part of this here is just to get right information. Now, right now, almost all of you are able to receive the nurturance of that capacity in you to align with your Dharma. Some of you are already demonstrating it. You're already able, through that purpose that comes when you align with the Dharma, to feel a current of becoming that takes you outside of the dragged, habitual, resistant patterns of your normal lived life. You wake up to a greater immediacy, a greater directness, and you're automatically more in charge of what arises for you. Maybe the outer world is not going to change right away. The real thing that needs to be changed is us, in terms of what we choose to make important and what to act on and what we don't. And that when we choose to take alignment, then inevitably we're going to encounter the resistance of a new alignment that's different than what we've known before. And then what we have to do is keep choosing that. Otherwise, the old alignment will come back up and reclaim its authority, reclaim its territory. So when we talk about Dharma, we talk about action. We talk about how we apply our attention, what it is we make important or unimportant, where we get stubborn or resistant or right, and agree with that position, and then keep feeding that position with our story, our rationalizations and justifications, our projections, our judgments, or not. So in my experience with people, that when they awaken, or even before they awaken, if they can be engaged in the inquiry of these 4 questions: who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of life? And how do I live? It's this 4th question. How do I live? It's really an empowering question because it allows us to pay attention to the way we've been living up until this moment to see if it serves the answers you find in the other three questions. Because when you look at this, the nature of who am I, or who are we, or I better said, what are we? We have these two components. We have this human side, and we have this spiritual side, divine side, higher side. So when we look at who we are, we're going to see, if we deeply look at that, we're going to begin to get a sense of the predicament we find ourselves in. Because the issue of who am I is where we lose ourselves, where we get trapped in getting identified or attached or vested in the content that arises both from within our own natures, but also in reaction to the world that's coming at us. So this process of self-discovery of who am I is one that if it is there, then over the course of years and years and years, we get to know ourselves. I can remember when I was left home at 15, I was almost 16. And the first thing I did, I was living in a college town in Southern California. No money, nothing. Hanging out, different people letting me stay or not. And I'd hang out in a mystic bookstore. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know there was such a thing as a mystic bookstore. I had done a fair amount of inquiry earlier in my life in philosophy and psychology, but not in occult, spirituality, psychic stuff. But I was fascinated, and I had a lot of free time. And what I did is I learned how to read palms, and I learned how to do my own astrology chart. And it was like, the question was, who am I? And I was looking everywhere. How can I find out who I am? Like, what do other people know about how to know yourself? Even to this day, I can look at my palm. When I was in India, I saw the lines of my palm change in a way they had never changed before after my awakening. The physical lines changed, something that's supposed to stay with you for the rest of your life. The nature of the astrology taught me that there are so many other factors that are going on continuously. Your unsigned, what you're born with, and what happens after that point is always a continuous unfolding. There's nothing fixed. Taught me that there was not just who am I, there is also this endless unfolding of creation where my version of myself is changing all the time, depending upon the moon sign, the sun sign, the astrological configurations. This became actually a place for me to have a way. It's definitely, both methods have their limits. Both ways gave me a sense of who am I. I had somebody tell me that, your life will be fulfilled in the East. I lived in the West Coast of the United States. I had no idea what this person meant. However, when I ended up in India, 35 years later, I knew what they were talking about. But, did I create that? Did this person see that actually? But it is a way of holding the unfolding randomness of existence, which usually keeps shaping our ability to hold to what it is we are. Now, at that point, to answer the question I was looking at was, who am I? It wasn't until my awakening established itself that I recognized that really what was going on was what I am. And then that whole thing fell away. And that's what literally is how we answer that question, is the finding out who you are so that you can recognize the what you are. Because even if the what you are comes to you and you don't know who you are, you will continuously be in this turmoil of figuring out who you are and what you should be doing and what is true or not true. And how does that come? It's a process of living. It's a process of action. It's a process of choices, making good choices and bad choices, things that work and things that don't work. And they're going to be unique to each of us. Can't have one dogma defining what that may be. We each have to find those own arena. And you could say that it's the choices of our life that begins to shape the nature of the things we value and we make important, and not what we act on, and where we persist, where we commit to, where we go outside of the normal paradigm of our moods and our whims and the responses to our circumstances to a determinate, intelligent choosing and re-choosing. When we discover that power within us, that is the collaboration between the what we are, the who we are, and we start living from that place purposefully to unfold that value, that meaning, that purpose that comes to you when you commit. What do we commit to? Well, we commit to any one moment, either by our conditioning or we commit in any one moment by the truth of what's trying to unfold in us. So the good and bad choices are really related to that which perpetuates the who we are or that which strengthens the what we are. So when we commit to that which serves our ego, well, I guarantee you, you're going to get ego. And if you commit to that which has an ego, to the paradigm of what you are, then that's going to grow and you'll recognize, oh, I have an ego, but I'm not my ego. That's the inevitable unfolding. And that is a lived process that goes on for years because the very quality of our ability to perceive is still very dim when we're young, or very distracted or determined by biological needs or impulses. So it's only when we actually start committing, choosing in life, not because our parents want it, not because it's the right, other people say it's the right thing to do, not because you want to make money or be safe or be in control, but because of the value of what you're committing to. This is the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita says, this is the yoga of intellect. This is the yoga of the part of you that can discern the nature of things and use the application of will, choice, to choose. And the nature of this is when we choose at any one point in our life for a higher good, even if that choice ends up creating problems for ourselves, maybe for years and years and years, it will ultimately take us to what we're really seeking. What we really are recognizing is the true meaning in your life. Even if you have to go through lots of careers and lots of jobs and lots of relationships, it'll all end up aligned with your purpose if you use the power of your intelligence and your capacity to commit. This is where we convert the randomness of nature, which is always going to keep perpetuating herself, going to perpetuate the old ego, the old versions of ourselves. It's going to try to hang on to those, versus aligning with our Dharma. Now, I know in many spiritual traditions, Dharma is the teachings. It's the particular teachings, the Buddhist teachings, the Vedic teachings, the Tantra teachings, whatever, the teachings. And what the teachings become is a structure for organizing your choices, your actions. It's not your structure, but it's one someone provides you and you give value to. And even though you're not discerning for yourself, except by committing to the teachings, that also works if those teachings are aligned with your purpose. I know a lot of people who have chosen a spiritual path that wasn't the right path for them, but they committed to it and they stuck with it. And then they got stuck with it for 30, 40 years. And that stuckness then becomes a dharma, a not aligned with the ultimate dharma, because the ultimate dharma is we cannot live someone else's structure, maybe for periods of time to understand the principles of it, but we need to find our own structure. The Gita says this too, your own path is more important than another's path that may look better. That the commitment to your own path will at some point complete, and you will very quickly make up the distance of not being aligned with that natural unfolding of your Dharma, using your intelligence and living life. See, that's the true path. It's not religion. It's not spiritual teachings. It is a way of being in life each day to discover the unfolding of the opportunity of life and the discovery of your own ability to be in relationship with it effectively in ways that are aligned with what's important for you. Now, see, that can take you through the whole domain of human desire and needs and wants and dependency and accomplishment and ambition and success and failure. All of that will serve if as a basis so that when the awakening becomes distinct, which it will if we're living aligned with our own particular Dharma, we have a base by which that awakening can then reorganize itself to align with this true Dharma, with this new Dharma, and which will in this time be the Dharma for the world. See, most Dharma is shaped about what's in it for us as an evolutionary soul, as an unfolding of our own process as a human being trying to become a more grown-up, to grow up, right? And we do it the versions our parents did or other people did that we admired, right? We even have Superman or Superwoman as our models for superpowers, right? It doesn't make any difference as long as there is an inspiration. But it's very often we'll get tangled up into each one of them because the nature of our predicament is we're the ones that are creating what's important. Even if we don't know it, even if we don't have the intelligence or the clarity, the openness of heart or the grounding in our body to know that. We are the ones that are assigning value or meaning. You know, if you don't, when you come to the awakened state of what you are, there is no need for meaning. There's no need for faith. There's no need for belief. There's no need for the creation. As a matter of fact, that's one of the one side of the trip on the spiritual trip is transcendence. Leave the world behind, let it fall wherever it's going to fall. And that has a truth. You don't want to throw that one out with the bathwater because then there's this other greater truth that has to do with the origins of our own identity that came out of nature. That the foundation of what allowed us to transcend was because we got out of the body, because we had a personality, because we suffered being a human being, because we paid the price. This is what allows us to awaken and appreciate transcendence. Otherwise, if it comes prematurely, you'll say, what's the use of that? Or you'll actually be an extension of your dejection like Nietzsche. Well, it's all nothing. It's all meaningless. Why bother? Let's just destroy the whole thing or let it fall wherever it may. That's the existentialists, right? They weren't prepared. The system wasn't mature enough because the course of doing it wrong long enough, or not wrong, but doing it not aligned with the full purpose or opportunity of life. And in there, begin to discover the fundamental principles of existence. Because nature wants nothing other than that. She wants nothing other than us to come forward with our authority and to align with her purpose that she's here too for, which was for creating forms for us to wake up in and begin to manifest that supreme capacity, our ultimate new Dharma, our ultimate Satya Dharma. She's done the best she can. She's working within what she has. When you're working with mud, you're going to have at best mud huts, mud buildings, mud ideas, mud beliefs, mud Dharma. And that's true. And you gotta swim in the mud. You do, and if you haven't met the error within yourself, well, then when you really get down to manifesting true Dharma, you're gonna find it then. That's when the mud gets converted into some other kind of substance. It gets transmuted into a capacity for choosing, for implementing, for manifesting the purpose of Dharma in our lives. So it becomes lived. See, the ultimate path is not how much time you spend with Shree or how many retreats you do. It's what you do in between. It's what happens every single day. Your relationship, your job, your issues that rise up, the habits, patterns of your reactivity. That's where it's worked out. That's the field of Dharma. That's your Kurukshetra. That's your battlefield. Now I got to tell you, in these times, finding guidance, finding right information, finding the clarity of the circumstances you find yourself in is rare. Who to trust? Or there's so many versions of it, you can't discern which is which because your consciousness hasn't expanded in its capacity enough to discern what is more true versus what is lesser true, because that's what it is out there. There's many truths, depending upon what level you're at in the journey to the fullness of our own true nature. So the guidance, who are you going to use as your frame of reference? Well, it isn't in the intellectual domain. It's in the person who's traveled the journey. It's in the maturity of their realization. It's what's coming through them, not who they are. Because this is what gives you the lighthouse, the guiding light. It strengthens your own capacity to see for yourself the truth of the purpose of your own life. And it draws on that connection to give you the strength to make the choices that would be otherwise impossible by yourself, or otherwise impossible to maintain over a long enough period of time so that it could establish itself in you versus the old patterns of your ego that shaped the realities up to then. So the one message the Gita says is we can't do it ourselves. Because whatever we're doing on our own, if we're do-it-a-selfer, and I was one of those, you're only going to be able to do it yourself based on what that self is. It's only when I align myself with someone I recognize as senior, even in my human life, and committing to getting from them what they had, did I come out of that paradigm. And what was that? When I chose to be with a different architect, because that's what I was doing during the early years of my formation, is I was seeking out the best people I could be with. And what happened in that process is it wasn't so much how they did the projects or how they planned their designs or how they worked with their clients. It was the quality of them. And I noticed that I would only stay with each one until that quality became mine. Or I discovered it within myself, by the way, because we do have all qualities. And then aligned myself with their maturity, with their way of holding the opportunity of architecture. Well, it's the same thing. We need to apprentice ourselves. But all apprenticeships end in mastery if we commit sufficiently to the process. If we stay with it long enough to get the lesson. Now, of course, we can only take so many lessons. We can't take the biggest lesson. All the lessons, by the way, are always that in us that doesn't know how or does not want to get the lesson. So clearly, the unfolding of our ability to learn is proportional to how stuck we are in that which does not want to learn, that which does not want to change. So we have to apprentice ourselves. But we apprentice ourselves to someone who can, by being in association with them and their teachings and their instructions, empowers us to come to a place ultimately where it becomes ours, our own unique Dharma, our own unique structure, where we claim it. When I recognized I was an addict and I met Meher Baba, he showed a light that allowed me to commit to see I was an addict and that I had been taking actions that I could not continue to do if I wanted to get free of that overwhelming compulsion and need that comes with addiction. I committed, and the rest of my life, recognizing once an addict, always an addict, that I would catch myself getting addicted in different kinds of things until I found divine. And then I knew if I was going to be addicted to anything, that's what to be addicted to. So even the addiction became an organizing principle that had its utility at some point along the path. Certainly, it was the maturity of recognition that there were parts of myself that I could not trust, that were not reliable, that would not stay true, that would distort or take it this way or that way. I had to learn to be responsible for how I was experiencing life, but also to be responsible who I surrendered to. So I remember after Meher Baba, it was Werner Erhard. Because Werner Erhard, it's all about manifestation. It was all about making it, changing your life, taking actions aligned with a higher purpose than your own small, petty, miserable ego. I loved him for it. I met him a few times. And it was very enriching to be with a person who could actualize at that level so fearlessly in such huge, huge arenas. I knew that following him would bring me something. I didn't know what it meant at that one point. I thought it was meant to be a more successful architect, but that wasn't the only thing. I sensed how the difference he was making for so many people. And I was in awe to be able to be part of it. And I felt I lived on the current of his Dharma, of his purpose. And it was thrilling. The same thing happened when I finally went to India and Sri Atmananda started kicking me out and to do work. I chose Sri Atmananda. I chose him even when I saw through his failings. He was not as a developed human being as I was. He didn't need to be in India. And there was this sense by surrendering to what he wished, what he did, I tapped into the current that lived him. And although it manifested differently in him, it manifested this way in me. And at some point, there was this collaboration, instead of a dependency, a collaboration. And then on some point, I found my own track. This is how it goes. It's not to be in the possession of who you're apprenticing yourself to. It's rather for you to be in possession of the truth of what you are. So therefore, always the nature of Dharma is that which continuously empowers your ability to recognize, know yourself as the Supreme Being, and be capable of living that in the world, awakening the same principle in others. It'll all end up with service. It'll all end up in self-giving. And what happens in that process? You shed the error and you live aligned with that purposeful current, no matter what little petty shit is rising each day. And that's what we're doing. We're creating new bodies. We're creating new capacities, biologically, neurologically, for human beings. When we align with this true Dharma, which has been forgotten, many lesser Dharmas certainly exist, purposeful reasons for taking actions. But in this true Dharma, it has a goal. It has a focused outcome. It's not meant to go this way and try a little of that and try a little of this and try a little of that. That may have a utility as we expand our experience, as we develop spiritually and as humans. But at some point, it gets right down to, what are you living for? Why are you alive? Just quit fucking around. Get straight. What are you going to make important? And that's my offering to you in the inquiry on this program. What is your Dharma? And are you willing to shed the old patterns and ways? Are you willing? Because you only have to be willing if you don't yet have the strength. You only have to be willing when you're aligning with someone who is already a channel for the current that you're looking to bring into yourself. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it was Arjuna, and he was in a pretty pathetic place. And by the time you got to chapter 2, right? Pretty useless, right? Know those states when you're pretty useless? Can't do anything. Everything you do is fucked up, and you're never gonna. You're not. Everybody else is doing it better, and you know that place. It says, we do not know which would be better for us. We also we are not sure who will win over whom, these very people, the sons of Dhritarashtra. That means you're all your Dhritarashtra parts. The blind king, by the way, that's what that is. The one that's been run by nature all its time. These very people, the sons of Dhritarashtra, killing whom we will not want to live, right? The ego truly believes that it doesn't get its way. It has no reason to live. That's the ego. It has to have it its way. That's what you're starving in you when you choose to become something other than that. I'm overcome by pity and faint-heartedness. Right? You know that place. Fuck, can't do it. Not possible. Overwhelmed, collapse. I just want to sleep. Don't wake me up. Don't want to do anything. Right? Know that place? And in that place, there's a power. In that hopeless being you moment, there is a power. And that power is a surrender. Not a good surrender. It's a mucked up surrender. It's a screwed up surrender. But it's a surrender. First surrender, actually. I'm overcome by pity and faint-heartedness. My mind is puzzled. I'm unable to know what is my duty. Therefore, what is my Dharma? Duty and Dharma come together. I surrender to thee. I surrender to thee. I am thy disciple. Please guide me in the correct path. Now, in this case, it's Arjuna surrendering to Krishna. But for each of us, it could be just say to anything, I don't know how to do this, but I'm willing to see how it could be different. And not only willing, there's a cry in me that doesn't know how to live if I don't find what it is that I'm surrendering to. And in those moments, that prayer has a power. And that power is in the midst of the darkness, we open a fracture to the light. And the light wants nothing else to do but come to us. I assure you, the universe is vigorously trying to come to us, to show us exactly what we need to experience, to go through, so that we can find our Dharma, so we can come out of the morass of this diminished condition. I mean, the supreme being, it's like Krishna looking at Arjuna, the greatest warrior in the world, whining and complaining, whimpering and justifying and rationalizing why you should go off into the woods, right? It's like, fuck, what happened to you, Arjuna? Where are you, the great warrior? What happened to the great warrior? And you're going to have those moments, guys, at different stages along this journey. It's inevitable, especially when you commit yourself. And in that moment, it's when the lotus rises to the surface. Just a shoot rises to the surface and opens up to the air, to the sky, some part of us. Maybe it's just our awareness, or maybe it's a spark in our heart that was always there. Maybe it's a knowingness in our bodies, and it opens up and the universe comes in. How much can it come in? Well, it's coming in as much as it can based on how much you will let it. how much you're invested in the old Dharma. We're the ones in charge. The more we let go of our individual ego Dharma, the more the universe comes in. The ego loses its credibility, but we also lose our lives. We also lose our sense of self. I was based on that ego. So it's a very unnerving process because you don't yet know what you are or what you're becoming. Of course, then we have 18 chapters of the Gita that came after this. And what do we teach all the time? Well, it's not so much the material of the 18 chapters, but it's that there are 18 chapters. That once you make that first surrender, and I did that at the moment when I was 19, and I said, I fucked this up. I'm fucked. And I opened up. That has an outcome if we stay true to that possibility. You know, Meher Baba was only with me for about 6-7 years, and then it just faded away. Of course, he died. That didn't help. But anyway, I did discover a resource within myself that came out of that choice to align myself with Meher Baba and to create a new life. Fortunately, I was young enough. I didn't have so much of an old life that got in the way like most of you do. I didn't have to dismantle the old life in order because I hardly had a life. So that's handy. But in fact, if you can align yourself with the Dharma, what your outer life is secondary to your inner unfoldment. And actually, then the outer life can become an enriching means to establish and create a base for the awakening of your purpose. Because it'll always be truth and love. It'll always be to see through what's going on and to be able to be in relationship with what's going on. It'll always be those two principles that are inherent in all of us. If we have one where we can see the truth and that's all we want to do is stay in the truth and stay away from all the other stuff, well, then we're going to be only half the story. And if all we want to do is feel it and feel the joy and feel the bliss and feel the relationship and feel the connection and be in that endless, lovely menagerie of spiritual awakening experience, well, you're going to miss the other half. So it's these two components together, our awareness and experience together, that Dharma will ultimately have happen when we live aligned with that ultimate 18th step. Now, a lot of you have been with me for years and years, right? And I know you've all traveled distance, and I see some of you who are so capable and really making remarkable progress. And all that has come not because of me or our relationship. It's come out of you. It's come out of the lessons you've learned, the maturity you've gone through, the number of lifetimes you've lived that brought you to this point. And therefore, what I bring can definitely empower what you already are and what you already have and what you already know. That's why when I speak, it's like it is your words, like it's you speaking. Because what you're doing is discovering a one common principle that is exactly equal in all of us when we shed the boundaries of our separative identity. So what I am is what you are. There is no difference at all, except in the aligning of my consciousness over years and years with this possibility that Dharma points to, that there was always more. There was always a greater truth, a fuller truth, a more real, a more expanded, inclusive, effective truth. A way to understand the basic principles of how existence works so that you can use those to assist yourself and then others in the unfolding of that basic truth. And that's why New Dharma is named New, why the work I do is named New Dharma, because it's the best I could do. And it's continuously unfolding because of the contribution of all of you. It's not a fixed entity. It's a frame. It's a paradigm. It's a new paradigm for spiritual living. All we're doing is creating the reality of that paradigm in each of you and those that you're in relationship with. And then life's content enriches it, and it becomes part of our experience. That means you know you've changed in ways that you haven't been able to before. You recognize at the very essential core of you the momentum of the unfolding of this new Dharma within you. And when you have direct experience, as the 9th chapter says, faith is secondary, but it also, the faith that you do have is so based on your own experience that you almost don't have a choice but to take actions aligned with that. So no faith is required, except for those moments when you slip back into the bottom of the barrel. But their faith in those moments is going to be a much greater faith than you could have ever had before. And that's how it goes, by the way. That's how we learn, because the human is not left behind on this journey. The life is not left behind as we move towards that which is the basis and beyond and infuses all life. It is this movement of deepening the perfection of what's trying to manifest in us. The hilltop moments and the depths of the valleys. There are always inevitably, and they will happen in very familiar ways because your ego has used these to organize itself up until the point of your own awakening. You learn to take the descents and the ascents equally. This is the 14th chapter, that all the gunas have their role to play in the cycles of the current of your life, and to recognize what they are, and none is wrong. Each has a role to play in the unfolding of the truth of what you are, is a way of learning to swim in the current of becoming. Okay. So here it is. There is the inquiry. There is the opportunity to bring forward, to start interacting. And we begin to explore through each of you and flesh out through each of you what this process that New Dharma is pointing to and where you are in that process, to empower and give clarity to you in your own movements, if need be. Otherwise, enjoy what others bring forward to share. Let it deepen. If you have a reaction or if you find yourself, let it deepen into you and let you be with that as an experience that you're having. Find the reaction or the response that's coming on in your system, because that's how you can take greatest advantage of our time together, to be both with yourself and with what may be coming forward. All right. So I hand it over to any of you who would like to come forward. Just sign up and you'll be put in a list, and we'll see what goes from there.
Okay, so first up is Elizabeth.
Hey, Elizabeth. Good to see you. Namaste.
Let me see.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
maybe we can turn up the
Namaste.
sound a little. Namaste. It's good to see you.
So good to see you. I'm all fired up,
All right.
really warm, and so good to have you here in Amsterdam, sort of.
I'm in
And-
Amsterdam as you.
Right. And I really wanted to say I'm really very grateful to be your apprentice.
Very good. Yeah.
It's quite a ride, and it's like you said, it's going up and down, and I'm looking for more. So I'll be there in the 6th day as well.
Oh,
And just wanted to say hi.
great to see you, Elizabeth.
All right.
Great to
Thank
see you
you.
too. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is iPad.
iPad.
iPad. Hi. I know her.
Hi, hi. My name is actually Lena.
Lena.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nina, good to see you again.
Yes, I recognize.
Yes, you too. I'm happy to be here. Shree, you talked about addictions,
Yes.
and it's come up for me recently that I have addictions,
Good.
primarily to alcohol, not too much, but it's still an addiction, and to snacks and to food. And I realize that it's covering up a need to control. And I think it's covering, it's like I need to control the expansion that's going on with me, because it's like, it's almost too much.
Got it. That's a very common, you're in a very common place on the path. Too much. Yes. It's too much, too fast. And I'm not in charge of that. It's the creation that's impatient. So yes, it is. And these little things can soothe that, the pressure of the intensity of this transition. So the issue of this is not, it is to recognize the pattern in us, to know it's there, but not to feed it or to reject it. Because some of these things bring a soothingness, because you're bringing along a body and you're bringing along a personality, which really, without more exposure, wouldn't be able to take it all in. So, but it does help to have a simple life. It does help to have your own space. It does help to keep exposure over time. And anytime you can take actions aligned with what's happening for you, to not say no, but to say, okay, this much. And then that serves. Each person travels according to their own way. But one thing I will say is that in my own experience, if you allow it, if you just allow it, maybe you can only allow it for 10 seconds, the pressure, the intensity. Just allow it for 10 seconds, and then next time allow it for 15 seconds, 20 seconds. You will then be able to discover that you actually have a valve that can taper it down or open it up. That will allow you to take it proportional to what you're capable of at any one moment. I have discovered over the years, because my initial, when I first started teaching it, is, destroy anything that's in the way. Die in any way you can. Pain, lose control of your bowels, go mad, whatever, all that serves, but that's not what I see. We want a human being on the other side of this. We want a functional person. So this slow integration, or relatively to each person. The fact that you can get overwhelmed by the energy means that your being is already open and willing.
Oh, yes, I'm open and willing. And at this moment, it's like no matter what I touch, I get so excited. I get so into it. And I see so many things that I like. I understand how things are working, how human beings are working, how the world is working. And so it's like this creative power. It's like no matter what I touch, then it's like it's so big.
It doesn't let
And
you
I just-
sleep. It doesn't let you eat. It doesn't let you go to your bathroom. So you have a little wine. So what, The issue here is just recognize that we are also bringing along the human being. And yeah, I
Yeah.
can see. So the revelatory states are coming. And this nature of your recovering that capacity of the the what you are in a way where your ego is definitely secondary. But you want to take care of the person. If you haven't taken care of yourself sufficiently and you don't have strategies, then learn strategies that can take care of you. Because there's no doubt about it. For some of you, the energy is very intense, and perhaps you're not grounded enough. See, as a tendency is, if we're not grounded, then the cup overflows. If we're grounded, then it will come through and you won't get overwhelmed. The idea of why it builds up as too much is because we have blockage. And the blockage is usually in the lower chakras for most people, or in the diaphragm where all the shame structures. And they're dragging along with you. Even you're on the journey as a what you are. The who is still having these issues. So the idea here then is to be more in your body when you're experiencing the too much, just before you pour the wine into the glass. Be in touch with what's going on in your body as you're thinking and creating a story about overwhelm or too much. And be with that sensation, the pressure, and find its location in your body. This will have you be a conscious collaborator. And then do that for some moments, maybe some minutes, and either the urge will go away or go ahead and have your glass of wine. It's not a right or wrong. It's for you to discover what's going to allow you to progress in a sustainable way. And at first, of course, the ego is going to be very little. From the paradigm of the diminished self, it doesn't want it at all, but because the what you are is so powerful, it has to give it something. But as you grow, the who we are becomes a conscious collaborator. And when you do meet these things in your body, when you meet the overwhelm in your body, maybe an ocean of tears or grief will come forward.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the heart opening. That's the shrouds of the heart being experienced in the unfolding of your presence with it. Because these parts of our body are neglected children. They're the neglected parts of ourself that we have not paid sufficient attention. So those parts could teach us their Dharma, the peace they're here to teach us. And then this, you'll see a greater fluidity, a greater relaxation, a greater ease. But initially, there are going to be periods. There are going to be periods of fire, wild enthusiasms. There will be these revelatory states, and then they collapse into this, who am I? I'm a slug, you know. And that's a process. That's all included in the unfolding of this new Dharma. It is nothing left out. And it's really more about our capacity to live in our bodies and to continue to discover what is opposing or resisting, but not in cruelty, but in a loving attention, because these undeveloped parts are the starved part of our human. The mom wasn't there when it needed. The rejections that occurred when you were a teenager, the ostracizations, all those things are parts of ourself that are wounded and have gone into their contraction because life isn't safe or you're not good enough and all that stuff. These are just energetic structures stored in the body, in the heart, in the belly, in the lower chakra. So as I talk, are you aware of what's happening in your body?
I can feel a lot in my body,
Good.
a lot of stuff going on.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
go. There's your plate for today. There's your
Yeah,
meal
okay.
for today.
Okay, thank you.
Namaste. You're welcome.
Okay.
Namaste.
Okay, next up is Philip.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Now you go. Philip? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Philip, you got a weak connection, but I see you. Okay, we can't quite hear you. Give a second while I figure out if you're muted or not. And then just speak up and I'll tell you.
Okay.
Unmuted.
You're
Yeah,
unmuted.
you're here.
We can hear you.
Thank you. The question is about looking at personal capacity in relationship to family, friends, loved ones, particularly my 5-year-old granddaughter. And it seems sometimes it's in conflict or a distraction from purpose. And in listening, it feels like it's the challenge of seeing it as part of purpose. But that's difficult to navigate.
All right. Well, it comes down to your heart. So your awareness is more developed than your heart, or maybe the heart is still too tied up to the lower nature. of need and want. But in either case, it is the capacity to be in a felt relationship in your body and in your heart with these relationships. Yeah. Family, people you get vested in or have been vested in, people who are challenging you in the moment, either in your activity or your fear or your need or your want. This is where we meet it as experiences within ourselves and not let it be projected on the person that's activating that structure. Because it's compassion is one thing. The willingness and our awareness to recognize a person being as they are is not the same as feeling and experiencing their impact on you in your emotional body, in your body, physical body. Because in this arena, then, when we come into relationship with the existence, including people or circumstances or events that we have either attraction to or repulsion of, will determine what's possible in our relationship. But when we can meet it within our bodies, if you're 60% within yourself, when you're with someone, then you're going to give them more space to come into existence than you would otherwise. Now, I would need more information if you want to address a specific focus, but I'd be glad to do that with you.
Thank you.
Okay, so did we lose the sound?
No. Well,
Oh, there you are. It's the signal.
I'm just saying thank you.
Okay.
I have signed up on the new Dharma.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, hang on. Yes. You're taking on a current. Namaste.
Okay, next up is Sophia. Or Sophie? Sophie, sorry.
Sophie. Namaste.
Hi, Sophie.
Good to see you
Good to
again.
see you.
Good to see you. Oh, okay. I would just first like to say that this topic is so incredibly beautiful, and it's so amazing just to sit here and listen. And of course, I just had to take the opportunity to ask about purpose. And I think my question is how to recognize or how to learn to identify the purpose with health of the body. Like, how can I be more sure that I have found my purpose, and how can I train myself to maybe be more confident in it?
The part of you, Sophie, that would doubt is the problem. The part of you that's afraid she could be doing it wrong or not good enough is the problem. Because you're not listening from the place of where the body need is arising. So the issue of being in touch with your body is how you quiet the anxiety, the doubt that comes up relative to your body. Now, specifically, the caring for your body, what is relationship with your greater purpose? Because if you make your body your purpose, then you're heading into a place you can't come out of. But if you're having your body be a means for manifesting your purpose, then any considerations you have will fall away over the course of time about your body. It'll just be included in the flow of your greater purpose. So I know you're feeling this purpose. I know that there is a great call in you to be that, and there is this consideration. So what is the issue with your body? What is your concern about it?
Not trusting it, I think.
Well, you're not in it, that's why. You need to get in your body. You need to feel what it's feeling. You got to meet the emotions. You got to meet the psychological structures. You got to meet the fears and the resistances that you've been operating on top of. So that's how you can convert your body into a purpose, but the purpose would be to have the body useful, to be a greater channel vessel for your greater purpose, not to have the body be the purpose. It'll happen in the unfolding because the current will pull you beyond the part of you that you haven't lived with. But at the same time, if you take that purposeful awakening and you turn it and embody it consciously within yourself and feel it as an energy in your body and learn the body talk, the language of your body, and where the fear, the reaction, the doubt, or the confusion lives other than your head. Because confusion, if someone says to me, I have doubt or confusion, I know they're living in their head. So you can know it's your mind that's creating a problem that may or may not be true. But I do sense that the more you embody, the more the knowing of your awareness will be richened by the knowing of your heart and your own belly and physical life. And you may have things to meet there that the universe has been trying to show you and you haven't been paying attention. So that is your work. The first part of the purpose is to become a more capable vessel. So it is a worthy cause. To find what it is that is hidden from you and still not met in every circumstance of your life. And now that you're in our relationship with me, that's going to be a lot of circumstances. You're going to be able to meet this more and more. And it's going to bring joy, or to bring peace, or to bring presence, or to bring misery and suffering and reactivity. That's all evidence of an awakening within your body. But you have to be here for it. And you can do that while you align your life with this greater purpose. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie.
Next up is Radha.
All right.
Radha.
Radha.
Hello.
Hello.
She's my greatest fan.
Well, we're her greatest fans.
Her greatest fan.
This Zoom standing in line is so powerful because you have to sit with your question and it builds, And I, unlike the state described earlier by a couple participants, fire and wild enthusiasm, I'm having trouble forming a question or statement because something has to form the question or statement, and I can't find the thing. I can't find the I.
Okay, it's okay. It's okay. It's perfectly fine.
The sadness is coming up now. It wasn't there before.
No, but that's what, there it is. That's what it is you were to bring forward. You don't know what the I part, the no I is no mind. It doesn't mean there isn't something there. So this sadness, this anguish, the price of living through the filter of the mental evaluation and judgments, that price of being not in your body is the tears. It's the sadness. It's the, I have not, it's the recovery. It's the moment of recovering the part of you that has not been able to live aligned with their purpose. And you just need to feel that price that you have paid, because that is the healing of those pieces of you that develop the strategies of your personality. So it's perfect. You just did it. Where is that in your body? Is that in your belly and diaphragm? Where I'm experiencing it right now?
Well, there's kind of a whole field of calmness that's happening.
Okay, as we talk.
Yeah.
Because you spoke it.
Yeah. Because it feels like a blankness and a death.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm just staring at walls doing nothing. I woke up this morning and I thought I have to do some structure, so I went to Staples and I bought a 1 week calendar and a to-do list that I could put in front of me. And if you notice, they're both blank because I got home and I realized I don't have a dry eraser to put in.
I got it. I mean, you're in an advanced state. and what it's trying to do is figuring out how to manifest, right? I know this state.
I have a purpose. I have 4 projects that are going to blow you away when you see them.
Oh, okay.
And I can't work on them. I can't. It's like
such a dilemma. This is what people would long for, but the problem comes when you try to manifest from that place, All right. Thank you for being a perfect demonstration.
And thank you so much, both of you. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you, Rhonda.
Rhonda, thank you.
Next up is Kristen.
By the way, that's an object lesson for those of you who wonder how to function, right? A calendar and a to-do list.
But make sure you have your pen.
Yeah.
I'll send you one.
Okay. Great.
Kristen,
Kristen,
hi.
good to see you.
No, I wasn't expecting to be next.
All right.
Oops.
That's good. That's good.
Good.
I can plan less. So this is all incredible, and I relate to the overwhelm a little bit of the energies, and I am seeing a shift, which is really nice. That my meditations were so crazy and active and so uncomfortable, and now there seem to be, rather than smaller, mini kriyas, I'm getting bigger waves of energy, which feels much better.
Yes, good. That is evidence that part of you, very rajas, very control, has relaxed, and now you're like a rubber boat rather than a hard steel shell. You're more fluid. So when you ride the waves, one part of the boat goes up and one part of the boat goes down, but the boat is always there. So that is actually a bodily integration. That's evidence of the structure of our personality relaxing. And of course, it's more peaceful, right? Relaxation is inherently more peaceful, right? More relaxed, more peaceful, more relaxed. Because much of what you carried was the unmet parts of your embodiment. I was keeping the structure, even though your awareness is very developed, the structure of this had not yet learned to relax.
Mm-hmm.
So it's continuing to be with yourself inside, with your body, attuned to what's arising. And then that will continue to expand your capacity, especially as your purpose during the sittings when you get restless. Because, you notice with water, if it's a bigger opening, there's less pressure. And if it's a smaller opening, there's more pressure. So the relaxation that I speak of is what you want to do, this kind of like relaxing and opening up. The pressure backs off and the current moves more freely. It comes to a day, the current's running through you all the time and you don't even notice it. Other people notice it, but you don't.
Well, I do notice it a lot during the day too.
All right.
I feel it a lot.
Yep.
There's the ego part of me wants to ask what's the next step, but I don't know that I should ask that.
Too late. Too late. So there's a battle there. We now will know which part won. And this has to do with, all right, well, maybe it's enough already. Maybe I don't want any more, right? That's the part that says, I don't want to answer a question where then suddenly.
Because you might answer.
Yeah.
I might answer. So it's that whole idea of what's possible that we still haven't grown into it. It's much more comfortable to be small than to be big.
Yeah.
And to be big, what does that mean? It means what comes with that truer alignment, that greater truth, that more integrative truth, is the call to act in the world in greater authority and greater responsibility. We don't want to grow up, and we want to grow up. We want to stay safe little kids in our Disneyland or our, happy Peter Pan, paradigm, and not in the real world, whatever we imagine the real world is. This is very childlike. Child doesn't know what's real, but it imagines there's boogeymen and dangerous things and very full, painful experiences based on whatever they've known already up to now. But that still is the old paradigm. That's avoiding unwanted experiences. It's projecting into the future how you were in the past. It's my experience the universe will not give us any more than what we can meet. We're the ones who resist that by bringing the past forward in the present moment, because otherwise it's just a joyous unfolding of the possibility of what you've become into your lived life. So it's not going to be a problem. It's going to be a greater and greater joy, a greater and greater truth, a greater and greater grounding in the truth that's already come. So the what is next is always
You don't have to tell me.
being willing.
Right.
Yeah. And then you'll get the opportunity to experience the surrender by the presentation of the required sacrifice. So the willingness will bring forward the sacrifice, that will bring forward the surrender, and that's the transmutation. That's when it converts into a greater existence, a greater aliveness, a greater reality.
So I think you just answered my next question. You said the universe won't give us more than we can handle.
Yeah.
I'm going through so much integration right now, but there is unlimited options. There are unlimited options online right now.
Yeah.
And of course, my Aries fiery part says one more thing and one more thing and one more thing. So my question is, should I pull back and allow my body to integrate?
I got it. A good question. Yeah. Rajas needs to be restrained. Restraining the Rajas brings forward the Sattva, which brings forward the correct response, the correct action to take. So when you successfully restrain the Rajas, because like all wild horses, they don't want to be restrained, right? The Rajas wants to experience Rajas and it wants more Rajas and more coffee and more things to do. That's how Rajas goes, right? It is true addiction. Desire for the purpose of desiring. When we restrain the Rajas, then the whole desire structure gets thwarted and it becomes a burning and very uncomfortable. And what that does is it converts the Rajas to Sattva.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean you don't ever take the action, but you restrain the amount of feeding of the Rajas by stepping back. And then let your Sattva come forward and then discern, does this serve? Do I need to do this? Or do I just need to be here in my life as I am right now? And then watch what arises from there. This is learning to become, and you're really at that place, because is this becoming the captain of your own ship? And your ship is your body. Your ship is your psychological system. Your ship is your nervous system. So you talked about being a rigid structure. Well, that's the have to do it now. That's the Rajas, have to do it now, have to have it my way, have to get it done. Yeah, any of you got Rajas, you recognize what I'm speaking about? Okay, and many of you do have this problem. So what you do is you restrain the inclination by a conscious choice. So it's not a surrendering, it's a constant choice, because Rajas, as it says in the 3rd chapter, hey, this is the real problem part of us. The desire, the wanting, the frustration, the anger, the reactivity. This is a true enemy and you have to restrain it. Because when you restrain it, the Rajas then becomes the means for Sattva to manifest rather than for Rajas to manifest. And the Rajas is always tied into whatever remains of our egoic identity, our wants, our needs, our compensating structures, our ambitions, our restlessness, all that other stuff. So when we strain them, then we begin to meet what it is we've been avoiding by being so busy. And isn't that what we're trying to do?
Yeah, and it's a spiritual rajas, so I can justify it, right?
Aha.
One more teacher. It's all
Yeah.
spiritual. It's all spiritual.
It's
And
all
it's like,
spiritual.
it's so easy to justify because this will keep me in remembrance. And then I realize I can't remember what I just heard because I've heard 5 things
Too
over
much.
the course of the day.
Yeah. In fact, what it is addiction to the energy, and it has its part to it, where we convert it into another addiction. So the thing about it is to know the truth of you is that which is silent, still, and simple, and to rest there. And if you do anything else, let it not distract you from that inner presence and being that you are. And now Rajas loves to fill the gap. So when you're in the emptiness, it wants to jump in, and that's where the restraint takes effort over time to develop the muscle of being the authority over your guna. And then it will collaborate. So when you're in the process of manifestation, you're not going to lack for the energy or the capacity when you're actually doing the work that's aligned with your purpose. And you can also drink less coffee.
I can't drink coffee. I
All
don't
right, good.
no stimulants whatsoever. I am naturally stimulated.
No, I got it. Okay. All right. So,
Great.
red meat, wine now and then. Keep yourself grounded in the simple embodiment, enjoy having a body, sit out, do nothing in the nature and let nature come in. Yeah, be the emptiness so the universe can fill you rather than you fill you. Yeah, that's what they do. All right, Chris.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Both
you.
of you.
Next up is Karen.
Karen,
Hi.
our other bundle of Rajas joy.
Yeah, I'm surprised I keep raising my hand, but my crowdcast drops out, and then I have to go to the bottom of the line.
It's the universe.
Oh,
The universe saying, restrain, Karen.
Restrain. But I just wanted to share my gratitude, because when I'm in your presence, my heart soars, and it's just lovely, and everything around me and all the worries, all the cares, they just fall away.
I'm glad I can help.
And I just wanted to say that my Rajas has been being restrained, and I've worked at it a lot these days, because my days are very fluid. There is no structure to them. I've lost all structure in my life.
Oh, wow.
And
I am so happy to hear this. Good for you, Karen.
Meditating in the morning. I don't get the meditations in every evening, but meditating in the morning, I do that. And I just get up and then I say, oh, what's happening today? I have a calendar like but I just have potential things, but I don't do them all. And I'm just beginning to, I think I'm really getting a good idea of all the structures that are in my life. And I've been doing astrology charts for other people and seeing the structures that they have, and I'm trying to help them go to that core of their being and just let those structures be purposeful in helping them to find their higher purpose. And
I got it. Well, that which we still have yet to learn, we can learn by teaching others.
Yeah.
So it's, this is the nature of this journey. Astrology is probably too small for you, but it does give you an organizing principle to be in your life. Yeah.
It may be a way that I can earn income in years to come with and I can take it
It's
with me
it's a
anywhere I go.
lot better than working for lawyers.
Oh yeah, I can't go back to any kind of structure like that ever again. It's an area of conflict, and there's no purpose in being in that field anymore.
No. Caretaking of others
Yeah.
may be useful.
Yeah.
Taking care of elderly or
You should your
children.
astrology chart.
Yeah.
That's caretaking.
It's another form of caretaking. But the more you can bring forward your embodied heart, the more your rajas will be collaborating. But right
Yeah.
now, the rajas is why the joy is enhanced by your rajas, so it explodes. It's this bloom. But if your heart can be there, it'll be more at ease in its expansive joy. And that ultimately, peace is the basis for joy, not enthusiasm. So the idea of converting the rajas as enthusiasm into the presence and a willingness and expansiveness of peace would be the tasks to still keep working on.
Yeah. When I'm in meditation, peace is the source of everything. Everything comes from peace. And it
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, and it's a lot of joy. I mean,
that's what comes out. That's
Yeah.
the ananda. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Very good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And I just want to thank you again.
Yeah. Mhm.
Karen, thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Next up is Janet.
All right.
Janet, good to see you.
Hi.
Hi.
Freak out. It's almost like the last two people talking about Rajas. It's kind of wiped out some of my questions because I so relate. So relate. And what do I want to say? Well, first I want to say what I've been experiencing when I tune into these broadcasts recently is as soon as I see your face out, Shree, I start to cry. And it's all down in my gut. You know, I just feel this, it's just such an unusual experience for me. The crying can come normally, but with you, it's sort of new. And then the gut part, the first and second chakra, it's like this big space opens. And there's just tears coming from there almost, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know what that is. I don't know if I need to know, but I just kind of want to say it.
Sure. Remember, at some point, there's two paths. There's the path of knowledge or awareness and the path of experience or bhakti. Each have their own unique benefit. The path of bhakti heals all our wounding as human beings in our relationships where love was the factor, where touch, intimacy, comfort was a factor. And if we've not been able to access, then when we're in the path of bhakti, the energy of the divine that comes through as the Shakti, heals into those parts of our body and starts restoring them. And the restoration process can be the tears and the releasing that brings the emptiness. The emptiness brings the asat, the kundalini shakti. So when that individual sorrow, grief, loss, separation, lack at the level of physical connection, the body, the needs, the need for fulfillment in love or intimacy with parents or children or others, then the kundalini shakti comes and uses those channels to start manifesting herself through you. And it'll come from the lower chakras. It'll come up. It can be through the first chakra, which will be your survival and your clench, the tight ass structure, or it'll bypass it and go right to your second. And then there'll be this sexual arousal energy. And then if it's allowed to go up, it goes into your belly and there's this expansion. And then for women, there's the womb opens up, like holding something like a pregnancy, energetic pregnancy. And then it comes up into the diaphragm, and then you start meeting all the wounding and the sorrow and the separation. And then it comes to the heart. And the heart is then where it erupts and takes it all the way and completes the journey. So it could very well be, Janet, that all of this is a healing, not just for you as a human being, but in preparing you as a vessel for the other current of the bhakti path, which is devotion. And devotion is a lot of fun. It's like to love that much, to really allow that in, to be able to feel the fullness of the divine love when it comes, because you know it's unconditional. You know, it's just wanting to be you. It just wants to be in you. And it's in the joy of becoming you as an embodied being that you experience all these wonderful sensations that we're missing in the course, or unfulfilled in the course of your human life. So it's a good sign.
It feels like a good sign.
Yes.
And it's different.
Yeah,
So,
it's good. It's your awareness quieting and your bhakti coming forward, your experience coming forward. So, yeah, and it's coming because of this relationship. It is fun. The guru is the means for the truth and the love to come through. So for me, it was all bhakti at first until I went beyond bhakti. But I still carry something of the bhakti. So I can be the Shakti, the bhakti principle for you, for many people. So it is the love, the feeling of connection to the person is the nature of the body when it's moving into alignment with an awakened Shakti form, be it male or female. And it brings a deep fulfillment because it's more than us, more than what we could do ourselves, because through that quality in the other, we are enriched in our own ability to experience that ourselves. That's why it shows up when you see me.
yeah, it's like, bam.
Yep. All right, my
Click
dear.
on. Can I ask you one more thing that's
Sure.
back to the Rajas?
Yeah.
So this is interesting. Rajas is my deal that I'm really needing to restrain. And I'm in a housing situation now where one of my roommates is sort of like Rajas personified. I mean, it's just.
I got
It's constant.
untamed Rajas.
Untamed. And it's almost beautiful. It's so pure. But I'm kind of like, okay, this is just very mental, I know, but is this where I need to be? Or should I be finding a more sattvic environment that's going to be more supportive of where I'm trying to work, you know?
What's the nature of the Rajas? Is it positive or negative?
The Rajas of the roommate?
Yeah.
It's sort of all of it. I mean, it is that desire. It's the grasping. There's some hoarding. Now there's some alcoholism recently. It's feed.
I got it. Yeah. No, and it's being fed by you, through you. The energy is making it worse for her.
My energy's making it worse?
Yes.
Oh.
So you're right.
Because I'm Rajasic?
Not because you're Rajasic, because you're bringing this truth consciousness force into through your system. You're radiating it. That's one thing you have to recognize. At some point, you're impacting the world around us, around you. And you know, you can't just have any human being, because they'll go into transformational process if they know it or not, and they can't hold it. It's just chaotic. So they'd be better with a Tamasic roommate than you. You know, a dog.
But well, there is a husband who's Tamasic, and he's like, so we got it all going on here. But
I get it. Yeah.
I'm just wondering about.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to consider.
To leave.
Yeah, and consider if you can find another arrangement that either leaves you your own space or compatible or neutral roommates.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I support that.
Okay.
All right, my dear.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Okay. Next up is Jeffrey, who's been patiently waiting but could not raise his hand.
Yeah. Jeffrey's right here, by the way.
By the way, for those people who are
See?
I don't know about patiently waiting.
Good, you're restraining your rajas.
So I've got a practical question relative to Dharma. Obviously being here in community and being part of the AV team and with everything going on, I'm driven to improve things and do things, and I have this tendency in my life to, you know, to focus on that versus even personal stuff. And I'm trying to determine what's the balance that I really need to do, you know, because I'm not doing it. I'm not attached to the outcome of the things I'm doing because I'm really enjoying it, and it's serving the good of.
It's pretty much doing you.
Yeah, and but I do find myself taking away from, you know, my personal stuff too. You know, doing your taxes, waiting to the last minute, taking care of you, doing your expenses for the Dharma because you haven't done them. You know, just the biz. You know, so. Is it my rajas? Is it too much focused on avoidance? Is it, you know, I'm really kind of.
Okay, so you're not going to figure this out. What you can know is that when you come into a position where you're actually serving the teacher in their work, the universe is using you perfectly. It's using your compulsion for perfection. It's using your capacity to handle technical stuff. It uses whatever you have, and in exchange, it becomes you. There is a path called karma yoga. It's not just bhakti, it's not just knowledge, but if you have the opportunity to physically serve the teacher, anyone who's had that experience, it is the fastest track because you will be the demonstration for what the teacher is sooner or later without you having to do anything but eventually paying your taxes and getting your receipts together. So those are not important. And the whole issue of relationship, it will come as a byproduct of living aligned with your purpose. Everything will come. I mean, you have a partner who's with you. I mean, there's no needing a right situation when the two of you are aligned with this purpose in the way you are. It is a miracle of unfolding. It's not necessarily going to be apparent for you, but it's going to be apparent in your service, in your sacrifice. So yeah, no, you're leaping so far beyond yourself. It's just going to take a while to catch up. Don't worry about catching up because it's already there. And you know, perfection is the mother's principle of Saraswati. This bringing it down to how many lemons were used that day, and how many did you buy, and how many are left over? You mean it's not the same? What's wrong here? It's this ability to track God's presence in the details. And it will always be for a greater perfection, a greater effectiveness, a greater capacity to be efficient and effective in the world. How's that? Thank you, Jeffrey.
Oh, I just have to say something. Kalapriti, what is that? Is that a dog head? Did you see that? Yannicka and Kalapriti, she's laughing.
Caught. You got caught. Oh, it's a stuffed dog.
God, look at the size of that head.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a living dog. You animate anything you attend to.
They have a living cat. Don't worry.
It'll be like Pinocchio becoming a human, a stuffed dog start barking at night.
Okay, Kathy.
Okay, the last person on is, well, two people, I guess they're together, Caroline and Murray.
Okay, hi.
Namaste.
Hello, good to see you.
Good to see you. Namaste.
Hi, Marie.
My mother is here with me today.
This is your mom?
All right.
Oh,
Yes.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So my question also regards the same theme of the rajas as we were speaking about, and my work and my personality is very, very rajastic, and I want to know, because I worked with PR and communications for almost 10 years now, and it's very intense. It feeds my rajas, and now with the pandemic, I've been on short-term work deal, so I only worked 40% from beginning of April to beginning of July, and so I had an experience of being a little less doing. And now I started working full hours again, and I can feel that it's very hard, since I have that tendency already. It's very hard for me to just cut off the doing after the 8 hours of work. It's like I go up in so much speed that it's like, if I'm gonna continue have this and kind of tame my rajas, I have to spend all my free time just coming off work. So it's very challenging. So my question is, I mean, my work is good, so, but I just want to know, is there a way to know when something is not like
Serving.
good for me anymore? Yes.
Not serving. It's a good question. Because when we progress on the spiritual path, we tend to shift from a previous Dharma way to live that was valid for that previous time, but have not yet come to the new Dharma. So there's these transitional periods. And that the recognition of that transitional period and aligning with what it's trying to tell you becomes can be a turmoil. It can be a period of confusion because it was positive. It was useful. It gave you income. It gave you it gave you a purpose that served people in the particular way that brought to you. But that's what's coming next is not yet clear and what it might look like, but that glimpse of you pulling back from the intensity of the work is what is asking this question. How do I align myself with my higher Dharma that's trying to come? What are the practical steps that I need to take? What do I need to understand so that I can do this effectively and efficiently? So there are some very practical answers. One has to do with the necessity of your personal survival. That means working for the purpose of physical survival, not to get a great job, not to feel good about your work, not to feel that you're making a difference in that particular work, because that's making the work something more than what it is. So the principle here is, and because you're in a process of spiritual awakening, you're taking that higher energy and you're operating in a lower paradigm, and it's giving it too much attention because that higher consciousness just wants to manifest. But then it exhausts itself by manifesting in an old Dharma that's not aligned with the Dharma that's coming. So the only way you can recover yourself is stop. Be simple, be silent, recover. But if you're doing it 8 hours a day at your stage of the journey, it's clearly too much. So I would cut back to whatever you need to do to cut back so that you can have the space for what is trying to unfold. And that is what I say. It's always good to simplify your outer life when your spiritual awakening happens, and then not take on any more in the outer world than is absolutely necessary, and only for the purpose of these practical necessities. Because the fulfillment is what's unfolding in you. And that unfolding in you is going to want you to be taking new actions, different sorts of actions in different arenas from a different state of consciousness than the one you've been habituated to. Okay? Did that give you enough information? And you're living with mom, right?
No.
The other way around. Mom's living with you.
No. I'm just visiting. My
Uh, Just visiting. Okay. All right. I was going to say charge your rent, but be practical. Use the resources available. But anyway, that's the nature of transitions. Is you do address the practical necessities. You look to bring forward resources that may be available to you to give you enough time to bridge the gap, because what's next will reveal itself, and whatever is needed for that to manifest will come to you.
Yeah, because I don't have any like mortgages. I don't have that much expenses, and I've tried to save money now to see like how kind of investigate how little can I live on without being ascetic or anything. Just like what do I need?
Good. That's the way to look at it. Very practical. And the idea is always to save what you don't need so that you can carry the period of time that you may need for as long as you can. Keep your expenses less than your income, and that will happen naturally. It's my experience that I saved more money doing volunteer work with the little amount of money that came to me than I ever had saved making money for myself. And money just started coming in from places that I didn't even know about to support me at any one stage of the unfolding of my transition. So I know I have a great faith that we're aligned with the purpose. The universe will bring us the support, the resources, and the opportunities we need.
Yeah, I just hope that like if when I get a new job, or that I'm just not repeating the same thing again, because that's my tendency. So then I could just stay with this work.
The people who come to me when they have a physical necessity, I usually say, get some kind of grunt work, like work in a warehouse, right? Or food service, or something which just provides you enough, and it gives you opportunity to meet that in you that doesn't want to be there.
Yeah. I said to my mother yesterday that just being like a gardener or something, doing things and then just stepping out, but being with the ground or something.
Now, when you start looking now, you'll see opportunities will come. That will be exactly what you need. So there you go.
Caroline, thank you.
Namaste. No, good to meet you too.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Are we finished? We're finished.
Okay, good. All right, so thank you all. We've co-created this in a wonderful way. Every one of you sharing enriches the teaching and gives it a fullness that's relevant for all of us. So thank you for your part in co-creating this, and we're just this is our kickoff, right? So some of you have been continuously being kicked off, but first, we're constantly the next booster, the next booster, the next booster. So hang on, you will not survive. Count on it. And meanwhile, thank you, and it's good to see you all and to share in this way.
And I do want to just say thank you to Satyamanu and Savitri for opening up the space of Amsterdam to us, 3 years ago? I'm not sure anymore. It seems like we've been forever. So thank you.
And I did want to say,
and I miss you guys.
I am so happy to see Aditi Ma.
Yes, I saw her.
I am so happy to see you. She's up, alive, and she's
getting better.
So I'm happy to have you join us again.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you all. Let's take a few minutes to be in silence and stillness as we complete today's session. All right, let us begin. Hari Om Dhat Sat. Hari Om Dhat Sat. Hari Om Dhat Sat Shree. All glory to Supreme. May truth manifest. Namaste.